After 2 hard-fought rounds, you are presented with the win. But you're also presented with something else. A way to really assert your dominance. A chance to finish them with a fatality. And that's what a fatality is. A form of spectacle. And I think for what it is, it works. Mortal Kombat is a very successful franchise historically. But I'm not here to talk about a game I don't talk about. Like most things in this genre, this mechanic was inspired from Street Fighter 2. This was the game that spawned the whole genre after all. And these characters are so iconic that they just keep on coming back. If Capcom releases a movie where they cast famous New York rapper as Balrog, without making Balrog playable in the game that they're pushing and selling... Sorry, got off track. I was here to talk about stun.
The stun!
The main resource in this series, in this genre, is life, health, whatever you want to call it, unless you're platforming. You want to prevent your opponent from reducing this to 0, while trying to reduce their life to 0. You do that, you win the round, you win enough rounds, you win the game, you win enough games, you win the set, enough sets, you win the tournament. Sorry, again. But along with life, there is also a secondary resource in this game, your stun bar, or your dizzy bar as it's also called. Unlike your life, it starts at 0 and can fill and empty over the course of a round. And if it fills all the way up, this happens. You get stunned, and there's nothing you can do.
Nothing I can do, that's 3 times in a row.
And this will mean that your opponent has a chance to do anything they want. You can't block for a few seconds, so now you eat their biggest combo. So you want to avoid being stunned while trying to stun your opponent. And how do you do that? Hit them. They get hit, get thrown, stun goes up. And if they go a while without getting hit, the stun naturally goes down by itself. In a genre with all sorts of comeback mechanics, stun is a snowball mechanic. And this is a mechanic that has been carried over from game after game in this series. Sometimes they have the stun bar being visible, and sometimes you have to keep track of it in your head. And in Street Fighter V, they even had a defensive tool intended to interact with your stun bar. V-Reversal is an anti-strike tool on block, gives you a knockdown or plus frames or a side switch, but it also reduces your stun bar on activation. Doesn't even need to be successful. So, stun adds another layer of depth to the game, another risk-reward factor that you need to consider. Your stun bar is something that you need to carefully manage. Pick the wrong time to go in, and all of a sudden you get punished much harder. Have you been doing well in the neutral? Now it makes sense to play more aggressive because the reward for a successful hit is much greater. This is a resource that can either encourage passivity or encourage aggression, something else to play around. Make sure you stop them when this bar is high, because if you don't, you'll explode, and they might Danfin it off of it. They won't, that's gone now. This system also incentivizes players to put a bit more thought into your combo routes. Normally, all you're thinking about when choosing a combo route is, do I want maximum damage, maximum corner carry, or do I want maximum advantage? Okie. But now if they have their stun gauge filled, now you want to do a combo that leaves them with just a bit of stun left so that you can reset them and get maximum damage on your stun combo. Unless it's third strike. Combos have damage scaling. Each successive hit after the first does less and less damage. It's a way for each neutral win to be impactful while still making combos important. And this combo scaling carries over when your opponent gets stunned. So you want to reset the combo right before you stun them, maximize your damage. But your opponent also knows you want to do that, so they be looking for resets. Another opportunity for both players to outplay one another. And stun also means that these moves have another number that needs to be considered. Damage and the stun the move does. Once again, it's the higher the better. It's why Cody ended the game so strong. He hits really hard, but his stun output is so high that he can stun you in 2 hits, and take the round in 3 interactions. Here, the stun is more important. And speaking of that, this leads me to talk about something adjacent to this topic. A specific philosophy of character design. The glass cannon. Love them, hate them, you can criticize it as lazy design, a silly superficial way to balance a character that only works on paper, but hey, case-to-case basis. And the poster child of this type of character is... no, not you. Or you. Get out of here, I need you to make a point for later. The character most people think of when they hear glass cannon is the demon, Akuma. Or Goki, depending on where you live. Akuma is an offshoot of Ryu, the main guy. He has all the tools that Ryu would have. His fireball, his uppercut, his hurricane kick, and his button suite is also very similar. I mean, just look at these side by side. But he also has some things that Ryu doesn't have. He has more. He has an air fireball, the demon flip, he does evil karate, Satsui no nephew, so he can do more evil moves, and of course the raging demon. Akuma has all these tools, but just giving him more options without giving him any weaknesses would violate the power budget. Or in terms that actually matter, it would mean that nobody would play Ryu, and we can't have that. So in exchange, Akuma does have a weakness. He has low health. He may have more tools, but he can take less hits. He is stronger than others, so he shouldn't be losing, but once he does, he has less mistakes he can afford to make. And you can disagree with this design philosophy. Honestly, Akuma needs less health, but it's not like this type of character design cannot work. Other than Peach, and arguably Sheik, all of Melee's top tiers are glass cannons. Fast fallers that drop like a brick, characters without good recoveries that can't do much off stage, and Puff, who dies top throw up air at 40%. Glass cannons can work. And what made Akuma a glass cannon, the number that really functioned as a downside, is his low stun bar. The low life in practice doesn't do as much, he can survive a hit or two less, but he gets stunned faster. It's much easier to hit the breakpoint against him and make him explode. That's his weakness, the stun bar. But most of that has been referring to Street Fighters 2 through 5, games that haven't really done anything new with the stun mechanic. The more things change, the more some things stay the same. We've been doing 3 rounds 99 seconds for decades now. But Street Fighter 6 really shook things up when it came to stun. No more stun bar. Moves don't do stun either. That bar had been replaced with a secondary resource, your drive gauge. Your drive gauge starts full, and you can spend it for empowered moves and additional options. Your OD moves, drive rush, parry, all of that. And it goes down when you block, and fills back up after a delay once you stop blocking. But what's important here is what happens when your drive runs out. Burnout. Your opponent gets more plus frames, but also you can finally get stunned. Drive impact. 2 hits of armor, slow, and pushes your opponent back on block. If they're near the corner, they get splatted, and you can hit them. That's if they're not in burnout. If you get wall splatted in burnout, you get stunned. You still get all the time in the world to execute what you want to execute. If you want to stun your opponent, you need to put them into burnout first. Now, out of all the changes that 6 has brought forth, this is actually one of the less controversial ones. Change bad, we all want things to stay the same, but I think that this was an overall positive change, for a number of reasons. But it isn't entirely positive, so let's start with what we lose first. All the things I talked about earlier, the additional decision making that you have because of the state of your stun bar, that's gone. You don't have to manage your stun, and so there's less to manage. And it's one less mechanic for the developers to balance around. Characters can't do high amounts of stun as their strength, if there is no stun bar. And characters can have low stun, if there's no stun bar. But I think out of both of those negatives, only one of them applies in practice. Sure, we can't have characters balanced around their stun anymore, but that was a topic that was already contentious, so I don't think it's too big of a sacrifice to make. And for the other point, sure, we can't manage our stun bar anymore, but we got something else to make up for it. All the additional risk reward and decision making you get from the stun bar, you get it and more from your drive gauge. And it's not conditional on one of you getting beat up a couple of times, you need to pay attention to this at all times. Stun goes down on its own unless you block a hit, then the timer restarts, and you need to avoid getting hit again. And the same is true for your drive gauge. You block a hit, you lose some drive, and it halts your regeneration. You're not playing this game after you get hit, it's happening at all times, because your drive is your lifeblood. Managing it is on your mind at all times. And a burnout dependent stun also means a couple of other things. Obvious one, it's much harder to actually force a stun. You don't just have to win on offense successively, you have to burn them out, which while certain characters can do easier than others, it's mostly up to the player on defense's discretion. Sim will burn you out, JP will burn you out, Elena and Chun will not. And it also means that stun has even more counterplay. If you don't get put in burnout, you can't get stunned. And don't forget, they need to drive impact you in the corner to actually stun you. A move with 26 frames to start up that can have its armor broken with a super move. As long as you have any resource, super or drive, you theoretically can't be stunned. This snowball mechanic gives the player on defense options to counteract it. This new stun gives the player on defense more agency, and it's been happening for a while. In 5 it was V-reversal letting you directly influence your own stun bar, and in 6 it's all the things I just talked about. And I think the direction they decided to move in makes sense. Snowball tools are not exactly popular, and being stunned feels really bad. It's the basis of why the fatality stun happens after the round is over.
I was really kind of feeling, I want to have that good feeling, but I don't want to give the other guy the bad feeling. So we moved the dizzy to the end of the fight when you lost.
Now, stun is no longer the exclusive direct result of you losing. It still is, but you have much more control over your drive gauge than your opponent does. And you're the one who chooses to spend your super bar. You can always hold it for defense. In Street Fighter 6, if you're getting stunned, it's your fault. It's because you mishandled your resources. Granted, we do live in a world of skill loop and drive rush plus frames, so there are still scenarios where this isn't your fault, but if you're guessing wrong that many times in a row, you've probably just lost. Is stun a good mechanic? That's debatable. But I think that adding player agency to a part of the game where there previously wasn't is good. A mechanic that started off as oppressive has gradually mellowed out. And despite how different this is from this, I think this was a good choice.
This is the end. He's done. I think he's done. That's it. It will be the stun. He's going to store up. He's going to finish the combo. And ladies and gentlemen, $1 million is going to be awarded to Uma. Nobody had him on the...